My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path.
Well, hello.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. Well, you look good.
And well, thank you. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you too, babe. So, Walker's in Georgia, obviously not in studio with me today. Yeah, with all of his favorite things behind him.
Yes, sure
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So, today we're going to talk about do we value our things more than we value ourselves? And as a consequence of that, our relationships as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, what do you think about what comes to mind when I
I'm going to ask you the first question. Well, we were having a conversation, and I just said it's so much easier to um, buy something like a thing, right? Like I
Mm,
fall, I mean, I fall for Facebook advertising all the time. I'll see the ad, I'm like, well, that's a pretty cool product, and then I'll go look at it online, try to find it, on Amazon or just Google it or whatever to make sure it's legit. Uh,
mhm.
but over time, I'm sure I've spent a lot on those sorts of things
Yeah.
over the years, but for years, I didn't spend money taking care of myself, like going on a retreat, for example.
Yeah.
you know, or on master courses or, things that would have a more lasting effect than just property, right?
Mm,
Items.
yeah. How, since we're on that
Yeah.
topic part of this right now, what are the things that you think that you invest in yourself with that are not things? It's more about, you and your relationships. How do you feel like you invest that money
Well,
today?
well, it's in all kinds of relationships because professionally, I go to a lot of continuing education now. I'll travel,
Mm,
go to see the best lawyers in the country,
yeah.
do their thing, and have interactive practice sessions with them, those sorts of things. And that's a big difference than what I used to do.
Mm, mhm.
It's expensive, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's just a step that I've made in valuing myself versus buying,
Mm,
another suit or a shirt or those sorts of or a piece of furniture or whatever it might be. Probably furniture would be in keeping with what it costs to go on a retreat like that or personal wellness retreats.
mm,
I am trying to go to a couple a year at least now.
yeah.
Um, so, Sedona Mago being one, and just
Mhm,
um, digging in on emotional, mental, relationship, and personal health
mhm,
items versus big dinners out all the time
mhm.
or a second car or there's so many things that you can spend that are just it's on things, and those are great, but they're passing versus things that can really take care of you, right? And
Yeah.
thinking about the Facebook things, a lot of the Facebook things that I end up buying are like, a special cushion for your chair or, some new pillow for easing neck strain. And so I've got to temper it with that because I think those are really good purchases and they are for self-care. But
Yeah.
there's other things, just trinkets or, the latest gizmo that you can put on your desk that's a levitating magnet thing or, whatever. I mean, those are great. They're so cool. And I think
Mhm.
that they are enriching to a certain degree, but it's not the same. It's
Yeah.
the same as, um, going for 5 days to the desert to do meditation and qigong and personal work that is really difficult to delve into, healing things that have happened over a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
little different investment.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so easy. And for so many years, it was easiest to um, spend it on those temporal things,
Sure. You
meaning
know,
out just, how many couches do you need in a house? That sort of stuff. A new piece of
yeah.
artwork, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm. Why do you think you started the shift towards valuing yourself and relationships more than things? And I'm not saying it's like you were there and you're here, but at some point you started shifting. What do you think that was about for you?
The old way wasn't working.
Hmm.
The pain of remaining the same became greater than the pain and the fear of changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
It's interesting because what just popped into my head was, when I was growing up, we didn't have much. Um, when I was young, my mom didn't work and my dad did. And my dad made us very small amount of money. And there were, you know, 8 of us. I had a sister that passed away when she was young. So raising 7 kids, we just didn't have much.
Mhm.
And so, like even a television, we only had a television 6 months of the year. My dad hid it the other 6 months of the year. And, which was, I mean, upon reflection, fabulous. He really wanted us to be doing things. And so I think when I started making money, things were valuable to me because it wasn't something I had a lot of growing up.
Sure.
And so I think I bought things because I could.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think there was some identity connected to the things that I bought because it was just so different, than what I had the opportunity to growing up. And so I mean, visually, like when you started talking, I took me back to even when I was first married and decorating the house and, things were important because somehow that was connected to who I thought I was.
Mhm.
Um, and, having, that, and these were not expensive things, but they were, again, things I wouldn't normally have had the money to purchase. So there was some identity connected to the things because I think in some way it made me feel better, probably more capable and competent. I'm not saying that I feel that way now, but then. And so I think there um, wasn't paying much attention to myself when I was first married. I was just doing what I thought I should be doing.
Sure.
Um, and then And then I had an awareness, and we've talked about this before, that Teresa, wasn't okay, that I was aware I was not okay. And then, when I chose to get divorced, I think I was 29. There was a choice I had to make in regards to money and spending, and it was going to change, going from 2 incomes to 1. and having two small children. And there was a shift there for me when I made that choice, because then I didn't have the money. I was terrified. Like, how am I going to make it on my own? And I remember, I mean, this is the craziest thing, but I was so, and I don't know if I've told you this story or not, but I had learned to be responsible with money during my first marriage, and I was careful, but I was so naive still, so naive. And I was looking for a place to buy, preferably. And I didn't. I ended up, renting. But this woman told me that she had a house for sale for me, and it was $14,000. And and she had left me a message, and I called her back and I said, "Okay, I'm confused. I mean, you're telling me about the house, it's $14,000. That can't possibly be what it is." And she said, "No, really." And I remember she gave me a story, and in my mind, my very young, hopeful, naive mind, was trying to make it make sense and real and true. And, I even verified it by email. I mean, I really was trying to get the information, but I really didn't understand that she had made a mistake. And she didn't understand she had made a mistake
Mhm.
until I went to go look at the house. And and I think it was her son that showed it to me. And of course I was like, of course I want it. And then we're
There was a zero missing.
was right, right. And I just remember being so devastated. And I showed him, all the messages, and he said, "I hear you and I understand, but we are not selling you this house for $14,000. It is I think it was $114,000." And his mom had just made an error. Right. But there was, I mean, it's interesting because I'm talking about it and there's like emotion that's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I so, you know, wanted to be okay. And I so wanted to do, it well, um, financially. And and that period of time, I think, was, probably like over a week period of time. And just how much freedom it felt like I was going to have. And, I wasn't going to have to, you know, struggle so much. And then for that to be gone, I know that that was another shift for me, like in regards to non attachment of things. Um, because just with everything that was going on, there was a lot of attachment I had formed to that thing. And then having it gone, it was like, okay, how do I work through all of that
Right.
connection to the thing, right? Like, if I had gotten that house, then I would have had more value
Yeah.
as opposed to renting. There was, and I did end up renting. That is what I ended up doing. But there was a story attached to that. That was, really devastating at the time. Feeling like somehow all of a sudden I had failed.
Mhm.
So, um, so I think for then it was again just another step in towards, I choosing to believe in myself more than what this thing
Mm.
signifies for
Yeah.
me. Anyway, that's what came to mind when you asked.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your pain.
Thanks, babe. Yeah.
I know you're saying that it was a good learning moment, but it's just so hard when we are, um, it's easy at this further end of the spectrum, you know, with a career well underway, or almost coming to a close for me, to say, oh, well, I need to spend money on self-care and, you know, going to retreat and that sort of stuff. And so it brings it really home to go back to that younger self, middle to upper 20s or early 30s, and just trying to create a home for your children.
Yeah.
That's, uh,
Hmm.
but you came right through it, and renting was okay. Your value wasn't based on, do I own this home, right?
Right. But I had to work through that.
Sure. So can you share a little bit more about, the working through it part?
Yeah. For me, when I realized the reality of it, right? And it started sinking in, and then having a choice to make. Um, I did choose instead of taking out a loan, which maybe at that point I could have afforded. Truthfully, I don't remember, but I obviously decided that I couldn't. um, I really made do with what I had. Um, I chose to not create what I would have considered a financial burden or a heaviness. Um, I remember that, you know, the place that I rented was full of, hand me down furniture and, um, and I was able to get to a place in that period of time where having a place was enough, that my kids didn't care. I cared. They didn't care. Um, like you said earlier, a safe place.
Yeah.
Um, it's just that what I imagined a safe place wasn't what my kids imagined a safe place being. So, some awareness of that, being able to work through it because they didn't care. And I don't think I taught them to care about stuff. I just have an awareness now that I had identity connected to that, to the
Mm.
stuff,
Mhm.
because of, what I was able to provide, for my family because of the work that I did. Yeah.
Hmm. Do you think do you still have attachment to things?
Oh, that is such a good question.
Thank you, on a roll tonight.
Huh? What?
Thank you, I'm on a roll tonight.
Oh, you're on a roll tonight. I think it continues to get less. Um, I mean, it's so interesting because there's so many things that come to mind. And we've talked about some different types of attachment before that, that I've worked through. I like things to be well taken care of, as best, that I can. But, I think about like the sense of responsibility that can come, with, having something that is like expensive. Um, I don't know that I want to worry about something so much. It's interesting because in that rental place, what came to mind immediately when you asked the question was, I remember getting up one night in the middle of the night, and I may have shared this on a different episode, but Cameron had taken a orange marker and he had he had written all over himself and the mattress and the wall, and I mean it was everywhere. And I remember, my reaction being, there's not supposed to be that much ink in one of those markers, like one of the Crayola markers.
Yeah.
And I remember like that, having that reaction. Um, and so I think I had some, but not so much that it got in the way of my relationships.
Mm.
Um, I think about, Cameron taking things apart that were working. And it's like, and I wasn't happy about it, but it's like, okay, it was a thing and he's trying to figure it out. And I'm not, going to get angry, or shame him because the relationship was more important to me than the thing. I remember the first time, after I had gotten a house and Xander came in as a very young child and poured cranberry sauce on the light carpet and it didn't ever come out. Like like there's some, experience that I've had, with things. I remember losing this necklace um that felt like a lot of money to spend on myself and going through a lot of I can't believe that you threw that away. I mean, I'm telling myself this. I can't believe you lost that. I'm sure. How could you be that irresponsible? Those conversations. And then getting to a place, even like with myself, where, shaming myself was not helpful. Shaming myself wasn't going to fix anything. Um, and so choosing the relationship with myself over the thing too. And so I think it's been this just gradual process, over time. I think about, like if like some of the things that I have that I love, I'm imagining like, the stainless steel trees above the fireplace. Like if that would be sad, but that is the extent of the emotion that I would feel. If the I don't know, the Gaia pottery mask that I got, if that got broken, I would be sad. But I don't I don't believe that there is anything that I own that if it was lost, broken, destroyed, burnt down, that I would be devastated. I don't think that at this point in my life, I think I would just be like, okay. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. So I don't think at this point, I'm just trying to think, do you think there's something?
Retirement account.
Oh, yeah, I don't even think it's funny because I don't know if I told you this, but I ran into our financial advisor on the airplane. Did I tell you that?
Oh, you didn't
Both,
tell me
both
that.
ways, both out to Phoenix. I was in Phoenix over the weekend. Luke was playing in the college national volleyball championships. And so on the way out to Phoenix for that and on the way back from Phoenix, so Stevie's husband, Dusty, was on there. Anyway, so we had a conversation. And, I even said something to him about, I haven't looked, there's nothing I can do about that. I will, whatever is happening is happening. And I will just keep going. So, and I think for me, it's worrying about the things causes me stress over things that I just don't feel like I have any control over. And so I think it's just something that I've worked on over the last 25 years, 30 years. I just keep working on the non-attachment to things. It just can sound really silly, but the Lion King song, "The Circle of Life," just came to mind.
Yeah. What's more about that?
I'm not going to start singing it, but anyway, that is what came to mind. There's an acceptance piece. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
I, like you were mentioning earlier, learning to, you know, spending money on things that are helpful for me in the long term. And I'm not saying that there aren't short-term things I spend money on short-term things too. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for the most part, when I am spending money where I'm making a very intentional decision about it, I'm looking for the long-term benefit for myself and my relationships. But I don't know that that's the message in our culture. And what comes to mind, interestingly, is man, we can spend a lot of money on quick fix things. Somebody sent me a link about a $300 water bottle you could buy. And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. And so somebody they knew had bought one, and I was like, wow. It just struck me how much money we can spend on things as opposed to like the deeper emotional health or mental health or even physical health. And then ultimately our relationships. Do you feel like you spend money on things that are not, I don't know, that don't have a long-term impact on your life? And then what's that like for you to spend money on like a short-term dopamine hit?
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, experiences may be short term, but I think they have
Mm,
impacts,
yeah, yeah.
you know. And so when you said dopamine hit, I was thinking about skydiving or, the dune buggy excursion in the
Oh, sure.
out west, and so to me, those are absolutely worth the money.
Yeah,
But do
yeah.
I need another lamp or another, thing to sit on a shelf, that sort of stuff? And it's easy to say, I just keep getting that perspective when you or have nothing, versus when you have stuff,
Mhm,
you know, it's easy to say when you have stuff, well, stuff just doesn't matter that much.
mhm.
And I think it's a combination of a couple things. Number one, you have stuff, but number two, you've had enough stuff that you realize you could take this stuff and I'm going to still be uh, the person that I am.
Mhm.
Now, I can say that, but then from my recent experience, I've got my place for sale. And this
Yeah.
is the first place that I bought myself. Nobody else telling me what to buy it, how to decorate it, anything else. And so I, accumulated stuff, and it's not super expensive stuff. Just little things like a little glass hummingbird, and but it's things, or things that we picked up on a trip, that I put around a deer antler that
Yeah.
you found. I mean, it's not that it was a monetary value, but I still have value in those things. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
value that, and I value myself by those things too, even though I'd like to say I don't, because, and here's the exercise the universe just gave me, as you know,
Mm.
is I was out of state. The place goes up for sale. The realtor says, "Oh, don't worry about it." Because I said, "Do I need to travel there and clean it up or whatever?" She's like, "No, I'm bringing in a stager. We'll take care of it, blah, blah, blah." Well, this is the first time in months that I've been here, and I walk in, and the things that matter to me, like the bull behind me that you bought me,
Mm-hmm.
it was not cheap, but it wasn't super duper expensive. All put away, shoved in closets and tucked in cabinets and kind of tossed, and disrespected. And that pissed me off.
Yeah.
I mean, and I took it personally. And so we were talking through it. And I mean, it was like, that was me. Oh, my
Mm-hmm.
stuff's not good enough for a buyer to see because they might think it's weird.
Mm.
And so, and you can tell there's still emotion around it as we're talking. And so I'd love to say I'm past, caring. Now, if it burned in a fire, I would be sad it was gone.
Yeah.
Like you said, some of and those things, they're just little things, but they mean something to me, a
Mm-hmm.
remembrance of a trip or a gift
Mm-hmm.
from you. Or the painting back there that Libby made for me. I would be really sad that that burned. But if they had taken that down, I would not be sad. I'd be pissed,
Mm.
because that I have personal value associated with it in that context.
Yeah.
Think of that difference. And I just said a whole lot about differences and where you are in life and money earning and all that. But the bigger point is the last one that I made, which is you can have your value tied up in things, but it can also be circumstantial
Mm.
as to
Yeah.
if somebody does something intentionally to your things, not just steals it, right? Because if somebody broke in or stole it, I'd still be sad, but I wouldn't feel the same way violated like I did when I walked in after the stager decided that stuff wasn't worthy.
Mm. Mm.
They throw you that curveball.
It's interesting what came to mind. Hmm. Was shame.
Mm,
And so two different things came to mind. Um, there was something you said about the stager not deciding that your things were worthy. So that's came to mind. Like who you are. Like there's some part of you that is connected to these items, right? And so it's like, that shame piece of I'm reflected in these items. And if these items get put in a closet, then my value is not enough.
right. You're making a statement about me.
I am.
No, the person
Oh,
who put the stuff in the closet.
yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they just toss it in there. I mean, that's like, that was the cherry on top too.
Hmm.
Isn't that fascinating? I think that's fascinating.
It
That if
didn't.
somebody had stolen it, they would see it as having value. And I
Yeah.
would be less offended if somebody just grabbed it and threw it in a closet because they
Mm.
thought a buyer would think, whatever.
It would turn a buyer off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're so complex.
I'm sorry, babe. That is an interesting awareness, right? If someone stole it, you'd be like, well, I don't blame them, right? But if someone puts it in a closet, yes, not respectfully, did not feel respectful.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Whew. Well,
That could be another 3 episodes. But I mean, it So I want to say, I recognize that it is from spending time and money, becoming a better person, being better at professional or personal relationships is has so much more value to me. But at the
Yeah.
same time, there are still things that I associate my value with as well,
Mm.
and how it's treated.
Yeah.
And can I move past that? I hope so.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, babe. I mean, life is so complex, you know, and what gets laid in front of us,
Yeah,
we can't predict it all, right? And maybe it isn't something you ever have to end up choosing fully. I don't know. Um, but the other thing that came to mind when you asked the question was, is it that we value things more than we value ourself and our relationships? And I mean truly. I don't mean like, oh, I value my relationships. I mean valuing it enough to put in consistent effort to have healthy relationship is what I'm talking about.
sure.
You know, um, is it easier for us to spend, you know, $1,000 on a couch than it is for us to spend $1,000 on therapy or on experiences that help us grow or, you know, um, even medical things, that could be really helpful for us. Just what comes to mind is, the procedure that Chris is getting ready to have and just, that expense and how hard that can be for us to like really take care of ourselves. It's like, oh, I don't need that. I can do without that. When the reality is the experience or the process could be life changing.
Sure.
Um, but we can easily spend the money on a thing more than our growth, our wellness, our wholeness. Um, it was really interesting over the weekend. We had some free time in between games, and Luke and Xander and I went to a mall. I can't even tell you the last time I went to a mall. I don't even know. And all I could think of while I was walking through the mall was we spend so much money on things
Yeah.
that really have no value to us, for most of us, beyond the purchase of it. I mean, I was floored. I mean, I only ended up going into, I don't know, maybe 2 stores because I walked past and I'm like, I don't need anything in there. And another one, I don't need anything in there. I don't need anything in there. I don't need anything in there. Um, and so ultimately, Luke got some clothes in one store and Xander got clothes in another store. And that was about it. But I was very aware being in the mall of how much money we spend on things. It's amazing, actually, how much money we spend on things. I now want to do some chat GPT research on how much we spend on things versus things that contribute to our long-term wellness,
Yeah.
because I probably don't want to know the answer actually to that.
Yeah, it would be um, eye-opening, I'm sure. And even
Yeah.
if we turned over our bank records to chat, we would probably find out things that we think we're not doing, but we still are.
Yeah. You
Sure.
mean, like spending money on things we don't
Oh,
even know
yeah,
we're spending money on? Oh yeah. I think there's like programs out there that help you find
sure.
out if you're spending money on things that you forgot you're spending money on, like subscription things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is amazing. I mean, and I don't drink coffee. So that's a savings. I don't drink alcohol. That's a savings. There are things that I don't consume that I know, um, you know, if I stopped and got a coffee every day, at a drive-through, I think it's like $6 or something like that. Um, I can't even imagine what that, adds up to. And there's a balance, right? I mean, maybe I need that coffee to get through that day, right? But is the thing reinforcing stuckness for us as opposed to providing growth? And where is the balance? I'm not saying I have the answer, um, between, something that brings me, pleasure in the short term versus effort for the long term.
Mhm.
What are you thinking?
That's true, what you said. I'm just agreeing with you. I want it to be that we recognize that and take steps to move in that direction. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
deny yourself,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a self-worth piece associated with that too, but it also helps you prioritize,
Mm,
you know? So,
yeah. Yeah. Where's my energy going to go? Where's my focus going to go? Where are my resources going to go?
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's one last thing that I'd like to just point out, and that is in the personal wellness world,
Hmm.
especially in the Buddhist community, there
Mm.
options available that are income related, right? A lot of it is, free will offering. They'll give a suggestion, but if you have less, you
Hmm.
can still go, and even to the residential retreats
Yes.
have a stair step that can be income based, et cetera. And there's also work opportunities at different places like Esalen, for example, the
Yeah.
center out by Big Sur that we've been to, and so those things, you can still take those actions even when you're, earlier in the spectrum of life, career, and all those things. And so it's just important to me, seeing the young you struggling to have a home for your children.
Mm.
It's just seeing that part, and it's just so important because what you've talked so many times about the gift to your children of actually taking time to go take care of yourself and to open yourself up through going on retreat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Learn how to regulate emotionally and just all of those things. And so it just struck me that it was important to point out that there are options available for that sort of work, even if you don't have a lot of financial means.
Yeah. Such a great point, babe, from the personal work perspective. And I would say that, for people that are listening who are unfamiliar, with the Buddhist community, my experience in the different retreats we've gone to are, um, like it's really just about presence. And so really just trying to convey the message that it's not about, anybody converting anybody
Right.
into anything or away from anything. It really is just, in my experience, places that I've been, that it's really just about holding space, for you. And there are opportunities that are often given, like you were mentioning about different, ways of being able to do the work, um, in ways that are less expensive so that more people have access, is one of the things that we want to do too. With the work that we're doing, it's important for us. And, please bear with Walker and I as we navigate this world as in these areas where we are, trying to figure out how to do it all well, because it's complex. But that is something that's important to us. We want people to be able to have resources. And so, we even, just recently took our full, 10 essential skills course and created a mini course, from that we're going to be, offering at no cost, just to give people, an opportunity to do some of the work, because we just find it, so valuable and so important, to have resources where you can really start exploring, for yourself, your role in relationships, and some tools to start learning. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. There are a lot of resources out there. Finding them, I think, sometimes can be difficult. So, um, hmm, yeah. As we wrap up, babe, just thinking about, do we value things more than we value ourselves? And then ultimately that feeds into our relationships. What do you think are some of the biggest benefits or the biggest unexpected joys that have come from the work that you've done to shift your focus and your resources?
It fixed the relationship with my daughter.
Mm, yeah.
If I had continued down the path I was going, you know, uh,
Mm.
she would not, I would never see her, and I
Oh.
would speak. I mean, maybe, but it would be difficult and awkward and uh, sad. And so, um, and maybe I'd be dead. I mean,
Mm.
and so that to me is the biggest piece that I'm grateful for. Just a huge.
Mm. Yeah. Makes me teary.
Well, I mean, she just was here for 4 days, as you know, at her request, just to be
Mhm.
just the 2 of us, and
Yeah.
she's 25, that's a pretty unusual event, and at least
Mhm.
in my experience, and I was thrilled, that's why I was telling everybody, and it was her idea, and the reason for that is having started to, work on emotional regulation and work on pausing between stimulus and response, which is emotional regulation too, but work on being curious and just, all the elements of communication in our course that you just mentioned. And so it's been a long road and work on what are my
Mhm.
triggers from bad things that happened to me, as a child, it's all of those steps that moved me forward to the point, and I'm not perfect, but part of that is she recognizes it and I acknowledge it too. That,
Mhm.
I'm doing, I'm working hard, I'm interested, and she's worth the time for me to do those things. And once she was valued, then I became valued and started valuing myself too. And so it's just this growing event. So that's a long answer to the question, but it's a big deal because
Mhm.
that's my baby,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, it. I mean, you want to talk about do things matter? And I mean, this. You've got 4, uh,
Yeah.
and I can't think of anything, frankly, that's more important.
So is it accurate to say that as you've grown and things became less important to you, it saved your relationship with your daughter?
Things became less important, and working on being more um, emotionally mature, um, or less reactive, because I can still lose my shit. Um, it was the shift. It's not just the things aren't important, it's the shift towards I'm important. I'm important enough to
Mm,
work on those things. And when I do that on myself, I become more available in relationship, a better partner in a relationship, whether it's partners with you, partners with people I'm working with, or with my daughter. But the biggest thing that came to mind was just that, because we were at the point where she would talk to me
yeah,
for 18 months. What was it? 2 years? I don't remember. It was
yeah, I
horrible.
don't remember. Mm,
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's a long road and a lot of effort on my
yeah.
part to become better.
Hmm. So shifting your focus from things to yourself, growth,
Yeah.
and healing in relationship was life-changing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And still is. It's not as if I've
Right.
arrived. I wish I had, but I haven't. No, I mean,
Uh,
I mean, part of me wishes I had, but I recognize it's just that's our process, and it's our reason for being. My,
yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah. Hmm. I'm so glad for you, babe.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Libby is a lovely human.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. And so are you. I mean, it's changed our relationship too. I mean, just continue to grow. And if I wasn't, then we wouldn't be, I don't think.
Mm.
I mean, you always say the most important part to you is to be in relationship with somebody who continues to keep growing.
Yes.
And yeah, I've still got lots to learn, lots of growing to do still, but I've done a lot of growing that's helped us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And I'm proud of
agree.
that too.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. The journey never ends. There's always another new awareness, to work on. And while it can be hard in the moment, ultimately, what I know is there's always freedom for me on the other side of the awareness and the understanding about what's driving the reaction that I'm having. Yeah. Well, thank you. Interesting conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't know that's where we were going to end up with your relationship with Libby, but it's really powerful, awareness, all of those pieces that, got you to that place where you are now. Yeah. I'm happy for you and for Libby.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love you. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.